hear the word finance, what's the first thought that crosses your mind? If you're like 99% of people are entrepreneurs, the thought of having to look at or deal with your numbers brings fear or dread. Let's be honest, finance has never been a sexy topic. Most hate having to deal with or even talk about their numbers or finances because they're often viewed as scary, confusing, confronting, or just plain boring as batshit. Here's the thing. Finance doesn't have to be overwhelming or intimidating, and it can actually be quite a fun and stimulating topic because making money, becoming more successful, and creating more wealth is vital if you want to build a thriving and sustainable business and/or provide a strong financial foundation for your family. I created Financial Foreplay back in 2009 as a way to demystify finance, and I've been using my proprietary methodologies and strategies based on science to make complex financial concepts accessible to everyone. I want to give you the knowledge you need in order to become even more successful at growing your business or building real wealth for your family. And I'm also going to introduce you to some global experts so that you can learn from the best. And we're going to be speaking with some trailblazing individuals and entrepreneurs so you can really benefit from their stories, challenges, and triumphs. Financial Foreplay is a registered trademark, which is why there is only one Financial Foreplay, and you should only ever strive and settle for the best. It's time to slip into something a little bit more comfortable, because we're about to dive in and begin.
Can you keep my secret?
Now, there's no denying that COVID-19 has been particularly difficult for small business owners. With forced lockdowns and tightened restrictions to prevent the spread of this pandemic, many small business owners have had to really dig deep in order to overcome these challenges and basically stay afloat. Today, I want to shine a spotlight on a really fantastic retail business in Brisbane, Australia, that has not only survived, but literally thrived despite this global pandemic. I want to welcome Jennah Grimsey to this, who's representing her business, Vault Games, which is located at Lower Ground, 62 Queen Street, pretty much right in the heart of Brisbane. Jennah's in partnership with her husband, Dylan Shearer, and their mutual friend, Cassandra Varian. So welcome, Jennah. I'm really excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, Rondalyn. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks. Before we get started, why don't you just introduce yourself briefly and just let everybody know a little bit about how you and I met?
We've been with the board game store for the last 4 years and came to a point where even though we were making really good sales, I was kind of struggling with, I guess, the money side of the business. And I decided that I needed to get some help. And I went to a secondhand book fair and I came across your book, Financial Foreplay. I picked it up and went home and read it in one afternoon. I'm a fast reader. And yeah, really, hit home a few different points. And I contacted you. And that was last year, January.
Yeah. So at the time that you picked up that copy of Financial Foreplay, what were some of the challenges and worries that were really keeping the three of you up at night about your business?
The biggest one would be lack of money, really, just lack of cash in the bank. Every week I'd be almost emptying out all of our all the money in the bank just to be able to keep operating, and that was starting to get really stressful. Even though we had really good sales, we were kind of growing year on year. Yeah, it was just lack of money, and I'm like, well, we're not doing something right, so needed help.
Yeah, when you were growing, how fast were you growing at that time? Do you remember?
Yeah, we were probably doubling almost every year.
Yeah, which is a lot, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're doubling a lot every year and you're seeing all these sales but no cash, what was your intuition about what might be wrong before we spoke?
Before I sort of came across you and that, I thought that it was a volume issue because in the board game industry, it's very low margin in comparison to some of the other industries. And I thought, well, maybe we need to just keep doing more sales and then we'll have enough money to meet, all the operating expenses. But that didn't quite work out. I mean, maybe I had slight truth in it, but not the way I thought it wasn't going to fix our business. So when I was reading it, I think we came to the conclusion that it might be more of a margin issue and a few other things. So
that was probably a little bit of a difficult pill for you guys to swallow, wasn't it? Because I think that there's a little bit of a myth out there that people, if you can just throw some money at sales and marketing and get more customers, you're going to fix your cash flow problems. And nothing could actually be further from the truth. If your financial model is not correct, if the way that your business is structured doesn't make money, more sales could actually put you out of business quicker, couldn't it? And that was exactly what was happening to you guys.
Yes, I do remember that first sort of coaching session you had with the three of us, and you said that we were going to grow ourselves out of a business in the next year if we didn't make changes. And that kind of hit home a bit, like, okay, we can be successful, but still go out of business.
So up until this point, what was your relationship like with your bank?
We didn't really have a relationship with the bank because I had tried in the past to even get a $10,000 credit card, but they weren't very forthcoming in being able to help at all. So we kind of just grew this business on our own money coming into the business. We didn't have any other like line of credit or anything to fall back on, not even credit cards. So,
and were you guys paying yourself a decent wage and doing paid vacations and stuff?
Definitely not. The first few years, we didn't actually take any money out of the business. We all had sort of like some part-time jobs to support ourselves personally. And then probably in 2019, we started giving ourselves a regular wage, but not with holidays or anything like that. That's only came into effect in the second half of 2020. You
and I met just right before all this stuff kind of went down last year in 2020 with COVID. So what were you expecting at the outset of that year, 2020, to look like for you guys?
We were expecting to keep going along the same growth path that we were going along, just because we had built up a good community and, things were going well. And then, COVID kind of put a bit of a speed bump into that.
Yeah, fair enough. And when it hit in March, how did that impact your business and what new challenges did it bring with it?
Yeah, so like many small businesses, we weren't prepared for that. In April, sort of end of March, April, our revenue probably dropped by 50%. So suddenly the issues of having, not much cash just went, oh crap, we had not much cash at all. So we just kind of had to, we were already an online store. So we just were able to still do orders and things like that and focus on that. But usually with a board game store, you have like a play space so people can come in and play your games. And we had a very strong community we had built up around that. And with COVID, everyone was staying at home and social distancing, which is all, that's what it should do. But we had to close our play space. So we had to come up with a new way to engage with those customers that had to stay at home. And we started live streaming on Twitch.
For the people that are listening that might not know what Twitch is, can you tell them a little bit about what it is?
Yes, Twitch is an online platform where people can live stream. So pretty much it's not a pre-recording that you then load up. It's just you go live and you can, stream or record or show anything. For us, we were doing the games and that we sell, and our customers at home could get on and then talk and interact with us as we're streaming. Twitch was always something that we planned on doing, but it was a 6 to 8 month plan that got pushed into a week that we had to get up and launch. So that was a lot.
No, and at the time that this all hit and your revenue dropped by 50%, how much cash did you guys have in the bank as reserves? How long did you have that you could operate without being in dire straits?
I would say we probably only had like a week. We really did not have much backup at all.
And just so the listeners that are, everyone's listening to this right now know, there was quite a bit of research that came out of, and I know I shared this with you guys when we did coaching, that came out of America that showed 50% of businesses, when COVID hit, had less than 16 days worth of cash in the bank to operate their business. So they had 16 days, and I think it was like 95% had less than 26 days. So a lot of people out there are operating businesses, and these aren't just small businesses, we're businesses of all sizes had very low cash reserves. So you weren't alone in this, were you?
No, it was definitely a shock to go, okay, well, usually you would rely on that week's sales to kind of get you into the next week, but that didn't quite work out.
One of the very first things, I don't know if you remember back, that we started looking at your cash flow and everything, and we identified that you needed more working capital in your business to actually grow this business, because you were literally growing at a rate of double. So 2 times, every single year.
Yeah.
When we reached this position and we knew that we needed to go ahead and talk to the bank, can you just tell the listeners in your mind what you recall happening and what that process was like for you? Because you dealt with the same bank for a long period of time. And I think your experiences with them are probably quite important for people to hear, and they will probably resonate with everyone.
Yeah, so we've been banking with this particular bank for like the last 4 years. And as I mentioned earlier, when in our first year or two, we tried to get just a small $10,000 credit card, and that didn't, we weren't able to get even that. So we just kept going the way we were. And then when COVID hit, we were like, okay, well, we need to have some sort of working capital to get through this. And the Australian government was actually offering all these incentives to the banks to to back for small businesses to get these loans to get through. However, we still won't even be able to get that for some strange reason that I don't know, because we definitely have been a successful business. They just couldn't help us.
So we put together some cash flow projections. Do you remember that?
I sure do. Yep.
Which were pretty conservative and would easily have met or proven your ability to repay those loans. And we couldn't get the loan. We couldn't get the working capital across the line. But what happened with those projections? What actually happened?
Well, what actually happened is we did way better than what we actually projected. We were being really quite conservative, not unreasonable, but, just playing it a bit safe because we didn't know how the year was going to go. And then the year played out, and I was just like, I stopped looking at those in comparison after the first month because we had gone well above what we said we were planning to do.
Yeah, because you guys have built such a strong community, a lot of people want to talk about Raveing Fans. You guys have actually generated that in your business. The people that come to your store, they're kind of part of your family. They love being in your store. They love, being part of the community, playing the games, interacting with each other. And it really shows because that has become such a strong component of your business, hasn't it?
Yes. And, we did hear through our regular customers during it all that, how can we help support you through this time? Because we don't want you guys to go under. We still want you guys to be here and things like that. So even if they just signed up for a Twitch subscription for our live streaming, even if they just did that on a monthly basis, we just had a lot of people go with that option. And it was really nice to sort of see that they wanted to support us because we had always focused on them. And
Yeah, so when you had the challenges with the bank and you found that there was a lot of red tape and a lot of inflexibility and delays, and you got to the point where it was impossible for you to continue like that, what other alternatives were you personally aware of to source capital before, we started exploring stuff? What had you heard about? What did you think was available to you?
I know that was speaking with you that we wanted a line of credit. So we went with the bank because obviously the bank gives the best interest rate and we wanted to build up that relationship with them. However, there are a lot of non-bank options out there, and I did kind of knew that there were a few around. I just that was more of a second or a last resort option because the interest rates are quite high.
Yeah. Did you find it difficult to identify and assess those non-banking options?
Yeah, well, there's probably more and more out there. And we did speak to someone that you recommended to us to sort of try and find the best option that we could go with. Yeah, you just kind of, but yeah, it's still the interest rates on those are not the best.
Yeah. In the end, what sources did you decide on, Jennah? And what sort of rates were you able to get? Can you share that with everyone?
Yeah, we ended up going with Prosper, and the interest rate on those is 24% though on a line of credit.
Yeah, which is not, it's high, isn't it?
It's very high. We did also have access to PayPal because PayPal does loans, but it's not. If we took it, it would just be you have to pay it back before you can redraw down on it again, which was not ideal, but we did make use of that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people need to remember that there's a difference between when you're wanting to just fund your working capital cycle to pay for your inventory or your services that you're producing until you can collect money from your customer. That's a totally different kettle of fish than perhaps maybe borrowing money to buy an asset. And there are different types of funding options, aren't there?
Yes. Yeah.
So what would you recommend about those options to our listeners? If you could give everybody advice about what you discovered through this process, what would you tell them?
We just kind of had to work with what we had. And I mean, if I could go back and have a house before I went into business, I'd do that. To secure.
What did you learn about like just the differences between sort of PayPal versus Prosper, and when you would pick and choose when you would use one over the other?
Yeah, so we only ever had access to PayPal originally because I'm not too sure if people are familiar that PayPal does do loans, and they do it based on, how much money comes into your PayPal account, and it's actually very easy. We got the money within 5 minutes because they tell us the limit, and then so we would take a small loan and use that to get us through some tough moments. However, then we would have to pay each sale we got through PayPal would have to pay back a certain percentage, and it'd usually be 30% of each sale would go back onto the loan. So we would pay back the loans fairly quickly. While that got us through some tight points, it definitely sucked up our cash flow a bit. So while Prosper and a line of credit is more interest, it's definitely got a lot more flexibility in being able
you're able to draw down on it as you need it and pay it back, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Which we have done.
Yeah, and you've done that very well. I mean, 2020 kind of brought the pandemic, and it brought a lot of uncertainty for you guys, but it also brought this amazing opportunity for you to expand your business even further. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, so we had the lucky thing of our lease being up in the same year as COVID. So in October, end of September, we needed to renew. And we had kind of outgrown the premises that we already were in. We were kind of toying with the idea of moving to a bigger premises. And then COVID happened and we were like, oh, should we, shouldn't we? It's a bit of a risk, but kind of made our decision for us when the owner was going to increase our rent. I think he had personal reasons for increasing it, but we took the opportunity to move to a better location, twice the space.
But it was definitely more expensive, and there was a bit of trepidation about that, wasn't there?
Yes, it was more than double the rent of where we currently were. We knew it was a risk, but we had faith that we could make it work, and with the double the space in it, we had more room for our events and more room for people to come in and play games, so we can build up our community even more.
And the margins are much better in those events, aren't they, than in the products?
Yes, some of the events do have a better margin, and they get customers coming in on a weekly basis. So they come in, they enjoy the game. They might perhaps have because we also do coffee and snacks, and we will do liquor license as well. So it just provides on sale opportunities as well.
Yeah. So since your move to the new premises in September, what have been the biggest benefits that you've enjoyed?
Well, we have definitely almost probably tripled the foot traffic. So more people are coming down into the store, even though we're only 2 blocks away from our previous location. It was a little bit out from the center of the city. So just being right in the middle of what we call the mall, the main walkthrough, definitely people just pop down quite easily and come in and say hello.
Yeah, which is a great benefit for you that you didn't realize you were missing out on.
Yes. And then we also had, like I said, more space for events. So one of our more popular events, we were able to add in more spots, which we fill out every
I
week.
think you guys increased capacity by about 30%, didn't you? Or some of that?
Yes, something like that. Yeah, because we only had probably 40 seats in the other one, and now we have 60.
Yeah. Do you think that you would have been able to move to those new premises and expand your business if you hadn't got your cash flow and your working capital under control?
No, I think I had a bit of a dream that we could have, but looking back, I don't think we would have been able to sustain that. It would have just been very hard.
Yeah, the fit outs alone would have probably put the business under.
Yes, because as always with fit outs, you spend more than you plan. I think you were surprised as well.
Yeah. Well, I definitely was, because we were watching the budgets really closely. But by that point, it was difficult to sort of get out of it, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's some few unexpected things pop up.
If you had to do it all over again, the move,
Mm-hmm.
would you ask different questions now, or is there anything that you would have changed with that move?
Yes, mainly around perhaps the permitted use of the building and some town planning requirements that because this would be only our second lease, that we didn't think to ask. But I still think the location was worth all of that, though. I think we took an 8-year lease, so I think it was the right thing to do, just we could have been a bit more prepared, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you think it made a difference having someone to brainstorm with when it came to making big decisions like this?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I also know that you and I probably spent quite a lot of time on the phone going through all the different options, and we did get somebody else to help us with the lease. But again, we didn't realize that there were some certain questions that had to be asked. But definitely talking it over and brainstorming helped.
What are some of the key learnings and the biggest impacts that you gained just over the past 12 months?
Probably cash. Cash is the thing now that I'm looking at. Before I would be looking at, profit and expenses. Now I'm just looking at cash and how much we have, and I'm actually managing the money a bit better in terms of putting aside for different things in the future. So that was definitely one of the big things. I also focused a little bit on margins as well, like reassessing our product lines and working with our suppliers to perhaps get a better margin and increasing our credit limit with them as well. Those made all bigger differences.
Yeah, so just take you back to the cash, because I remember when I asked you the question about how much cash did you have in the bank when the pandemic hit. What's your target now? What are you working towards now? So before it was 1 week, where are you guys at? What are you working towards?
We're working towards 4 to 6 months worth of cash in the bank, and
Yay!
yeah, which we are on our way to doing that.
Makes me so proud,
Yeah.
And plus it's safe, right?
Yeah.
As a general rule of thumb, it is safe to have that cash in the bank in case something happens, and something's always going to happen.
Yeah, though I don't want to use it. I don't want to spend it anymore. I like my little daily transfer into the bank account.
Yeah, so you've got some good rituals going now, don't you?
Yes.
Rituals around savings where you're transferring money on a regular basis. And the more this is what I say to all my clients, the more that you start to save money and see that, amount rise in the bank account, it has a behavioral effect on people. Because where you got $100 in your bank account, it's easy to justify blowing it. But if you got $20,000 in there, you want to keep it, don't you?
Yes, yeah, that is I know that is perhaps a fault of mine, that if it's a lower amount, I do tend to dip into it going, all right, I'll just pay it back in the next day or two when this money comes in. And then when it gets to a bigger amount, I tend to hoard it a little bit more. But yeah, you just got to not touch it. You just got to put it in there and just let it sit there.
And you've got multiple accounts like this, don't you? You set aside money for your tax on a quarter.
Yes. Yes, I did. I know that perhaps not every business probably has like the 8 bank accounts that we have, but that's okay. It does help separate it out from, for me, visually and psychologically, to see in the bank where it's all separated.
One more thing I just want to touch because you happened to mention margins when we were
Mm-hmm.
talking. What did you learn from working on this project about the difference between trying to get your supplier to give you, 5% off their product or negotiating better terms with them about when you pay them?
Yeah, so it's definitely better to perhaps use their money more than our money in a way, for us to try and hold out on the money as much as we can. So, having 30-day terms, like there were some suppliers that we didn't have the full 30 days. So we're trying to negotiate to that. And it definitely helped the timing of things to be able to, for those little bit, rather than just getting an extra 5%. I mean, the 5% did help, but I think it was better to stretch out
Yeah,
the
you were far
timing.
better getting a larger credit limit and 15 more days, weren't you?
Yes. And one of our suppliers, they almost doubled our credit limit throughout the year in 2020, just because we kept growing so fast and we just needed it. So we were able to use that to keep funding the change, which was the growth actually, which was good.
And how do you think that you guys have become better leaders in your business because of all of this?
Definitely being successful or being aware of the things that can impact the business has made us better. It's very easy for a board game store or an online board games business to start. It's very hard to maintain, and just being more aware of all these things underneath has definitely made us better decisions.
Yeah. And you and Dylan were able to take some paid leave for the first time in
Yeah.
your business. What was that like?
That was great. We took a holiday in January, and yeah, we actually got holiday pay, which I've never had holiday before because I've always been a business owner, but yeah, in a very long time. So it was good.
So, what are your aspirations for the future?
Well, we definitely want to keep growing. We want to keep focusing on what we're doing, perhaps open a few new stores and, work on our online business a bit more and things like that. So yeah, we've definitely got plans.
Yeah, well, and the business is going to continue to grow because it still is growing at almost a rate of double, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. The last 6 months, which was, during a COVID year, the last 6 months were our best 6 months in business. So you can still be successful no matter what happens.
And I think it's really important for everyone that's listening to this to know that, these pandemics and challenges are going to happen, but it is possible if you can focus on ways to bring your cash forward. If you can focus on ways to create new channels to get the products and services that you sell to market. If you can find new products and services. So, Jennah talked about finding new events and subscriptions to Twitch and different things like that to bring more revenue into the company by creating new products and services. All these things are going to allow you to not just survive but thrive, because there are always going to be challenges. It probably won't be another pandemic, but it's always going to be something.
Yes.
And I just want to say congratulations to you guys for your hard work, because it hasn't been easy. And I know that it hasn't, because when we first started working together, you guys had no profit and no cash flow, right? You couldn't pay yourselves. And now you guys are making significantly more profit. It's, above 10% after you've paid yourself and all the staff and everything else and all the fit outs for an entire move to a new store. You guys paid that stuff out of cash, and you managed to start saving, 3 or 4 months already worth of cash in the bank. So the monumental impact of what you've actually achieved this past year has been quite astounding, and I really respect and admire you guys for the hard work that you've put in.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely hard work. Many coaching and phone calls with you got us through, but yeah.
But you know what? Going bankrupt is hard too.
Yes.
Right? So choose your hard, right? Yeah. That's the thing. And it's really important to remember that a lot of things are going to be difficult and challenging, but it is possible. Maybe there are some of you that are listening to this podcast and you're thinking, hey, this is exactly where the hell I am in my business. And I could use some help to boost my cash flow and put more systems in place so that my business works without me. Please know that you don't need to go it alone. Every year I create a bit of capacity in my schedule to take on 1 or 2 new clients. So if you're currently listening to this and you're struggling and you're 100% motivated to take action and change your results, I want you to reach out to me now via the contact details that I'm going to share in the show notes. And I'm going to guide you through the application process. As Jennah's going to tell you, I'm a little bit picky about how I take on as my client, right?
Yes, we did have I think almost an hour phone call before you even agreed to take us on.
Yeah, I give preference to people who demonstrate they are willing to take massive action to improve their results and also to be held accountable to achieve their goals or visions. Because guess what? I don't want it more than you do, right? I want to help you to achieve your dreams, but you have to do the work. Before we leave, I would just want to give you a quick opportunity to just let people know how to get in touch with you, and know that I'm going to leave, you don't have to spell anything out because I'm going to leave some of those details in the show notes, but just let people know if they need to reach out or they want to know more about your business, or maybe if they're into games and some of the stuff you sell, they want to become your customers, because I think they definitely need to check out your business.
Yeah, so we do have our website, which is vaultgames.com.au, and you can also find us on Facebook. And if you did want to give Twitch a try, we are at twitch.tv/vaultgameslive, and we have a few different streams or programs running every week.
Excellent. And Dylan would be all too excited and pleased to show them how it all works, wouldn't he?
Yes, I'll get a gold star for mentioning it.
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. And I hope that the listeners today really learned something from your story today, because at the end of the day, things were not good when you first came, and it was also a pandemic, and you've managed to turn your business completely around. And you're now in a position where not only can you continue to keep doubling because you've got the right working capital facilities in place, but you could literally expand or franchise or do something else because you're starting to put those systems in place in the business as well so that it works without you. So well done.
Thank you.